Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and I have Sean in studio. This is an opportunity for us to chat today about you, about your life, your relationships, and what matters most to you. In this show, I'll bring you the latest research about how when you are traumatized or stressed, it goes right into your children, and your children and generation after generation are also going to have some problems. So we'll have the latest research coming from UCLA. And then I'll talk to Krista Rizzo, who is a transformational life coach. After that, I'll get a chance to talk to you. So please call the show at 951-922-3532. We'll be right back with the research.
This is insane. All you do.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Then you need the law offices of Aria Thadakar for your free case evaluation. Don't let the medical bills pile up, and don't let the insurance companies try to settle your claim for a few $100s. Call 714-464-3246. The law offices of Aria Thadakar serves all of California. If they don't win, you don't pay. So call now, 714-464-3246. This is a paid-for attorney advertisement by the law offices of Aria Thadakar of Orange, California.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Well, welcome back to Inner Voice Show. So, a new study conducted at UCLA and published in the Journal of Pediatrics, July 9th this year, finds that severe childhood trauma and stresses early in parents' lives are linked to higher rates of behavioral health problems in their own children. The types of childhood hardships include divorce or separation from parents, death or estrangement from a parent, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, witnessing violence in the home, exposure to substance abuse in the household, or parental mental illness. Now, previous research has looked at childhood trauma as a risk factor for later physical and mental health problems in adulthood. But this is the first research to show that the long-term behavioral health harms of childhood adversity extend across generations from parent to child. The study showed that the children of parents who themselves had 4 or more adverse childhood experiences were at double the risk of having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and were 4 times more likely to have mental health problems. A mother's childhood experience had a stronger adverse effect on the child's behavioral health than the father's experiences. Parents who lived through adverse childhood experiences were more likely to report higher levels of aggravation as parents and to experience mental health problems. The researchers used information from national survey containing information from 4 generations of American families, including information from parents about whether they were abused, neglected, or exposed to other family stressors or maltreatment while growing up, and information on their children's behavior problems and medical diagnosis of ADHD or even ADD. With this data, they were able to find strong associations between the parents' adversity histories and their children's behavioral health problems while controlling for factors such as family poverty and educational level. You know what that means? It means that if for any reason you know that you are a parent, or you want to become a parent, or you just are a person who really wants to take care of themselves, if you know that you've been going through some adverse issues in your life, traumatized or had hardship, the best thing you can do is to take care of yourself first, because that's what you got to do. And guess what? We're coming back to talk to Krista Rizzo. She's a certified transformational life coach, and she's going to tell you all about what you can do. So we'll be right back.
I'll never give up looking for my baby.
Don't ever.
I've been around the world and I can't find my baby. I don't know when.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the internet stream.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
You are listening to Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I'm excited to have Krista Rizzo, who is a certified transformational life coach, author, speaker, video show host, wife, and the world's okayest mom to the 2 amazing boys, focusing on mindset, communication, balance, and empowerment. Krista is obsessed with motivating women and youth by helping them realize their true capabilities. Through her signature coaching and speaking topic, Inspirational Transformation, she will show you how to fully embrace change, allowing you to create the life of your dreams. She's a member of the prestigious Forbes Coaches Council, an active contributor to Huffington Post and the Today Show parenting website. Krista has been featured in the New York Post and has guests on multiple podcasts. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, it's really nice to have you here. Now, I know that your website is whyamiYelling.com.
Yes.
So, Krista, why am I yelling?
I think we're all yelling for a lot of different reasons. And for me, yelling is a word that I use as a synonym for passion. So we can yell for, we typically think of yelling as like a bad thing, as we're yelling at our kids or we're yelling because we've had a bad day or all of those things. But first of all, I'm from New York and I'm an Italian girl, so I only have one volume and it's loud. So people often think I'm yelling when I'm speaking. But really for me, it's about harnessing your inner passion. And so I'm yelling on the sidelines at my child's soccer game, or I'm yelling because I've achieved a life milestone, or somebody had a baby, or we're celebrating a wedding, right? It's really how you enunciate your passion in your life. And for me, that's through celebration. And yelling for me is a form of celebration. Sometimes I'm yelling for the other reason, but not usually.
So yelling not from a negative space, but from being heard, being your communicating your passion so loud that you are just expressing yourself, so the world would hear you.
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Now you have a niche for, as you say, like women and youth and girls who are teenager. Why there?
So a few years ago, I was not a life coach. I was working in corporate America, and I went through a career transition of my own. And when I was going through that transition, I came to life coaching and I fell in love with it. And so when I pursued my degree in coaching, it was, brought upon me to pick my niche. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't want to go back in the corporate world, but I really and I was in a space where, I'm a mom, I'm a woman. We are now living in a time where women are, being celebrated or are using our voices. We're yelling a little bit more than we have in the past, right? We want to be heard. So for me, I think it really was about the timing for me. I have 2 boys. They're currently 12 and 6. And so I'm watching them develop. And I really feel like there is, a niche or an audience for, coaching and transformation and mindfulness and all the things that I use in my practice to help our kids and to help our parents and to help women, create the lives that they really, truly, richly deserve. And I don't think that teaching our children from young ages is the wrong thing to do. I think we should start early so they have these tools to use as they move forward through their life. So that's really why, because I'm stuck in the middle of it, and I feel like this is where I can be of the biggest impact.
You're absolutely right. I think that children learn about relationship through their parents. The way that they've been together, whether they're divorced or whether they're respectful and loving together, whether they express. So the capacity of the experience that a child has is within the capacity that they've experienced from their parents and the way that their parents express their love toward each other. I've had people who gained a lot of love from their parents to them, but they never saw love getting exchanged between their parents. So when they went and got married, they gave amazing love to their own children, but they're not their mate, because that just was never, there for them to see and be able to mirror. So you're absolutely right in how to teach the couples and the children in how to express their passion, their love, and who they are. And I know that you have a mechanism that has 5 principles in it. That you're bringing on to your new book that's coming up in September. Mm-hmm. Talk a bit about that.
So I was doing a group coaching program at the end of last year, and I created it for a group of women who were all on different paths of their life. And they each wanted to do something different. They were either embarking on a different relationship or a career change. And I really thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Let's think about all the things that we need in our life in order to be successful. Not, materialistically, but really spiritually and emotionally and mindset-wise and that kind of stuff. And so I came up with this idea, and I taught it to a group of women. And one of the women is a mother, and she called me and said, do you mind if I share this with my teenage son? And I said, not at all. So then I thought about it, and I was like, well, maybe I should do a piece of that and turn it into a program for teenagers. And so it's the same thing. It's all encompassing. So what it is, it's called Inspiring Transformation. And it focuses on 5 key foundations that every human being on the planet needs to focus on or be aware of in their lives in order to create the life that they actually want to live. So we talk about why it's important to have big dreams and how to set achievable goals to get them, right? We talk about mindset and the importance of having mindset practices and knowing why positive mindset and motivation and optimism are super important in our lives. We talk about, for me, the most important element in any relationship is communication. Listening, speaking, having all of the elements of communication. And when I'm talking to my teenagers, I always bring in social media because that's a big deal for them, right? And I don't think we realize that's a form of communication, but it's a big form of communication. So what you're putting out, you need to be, you got to be careful, right? And then we talk about life balance, because it's not just about time management and balancing and taking care of your time management skills. It's about balancing your life and having time for your self-care, which you spoke about earlier, super important on focusing on yourself and how your mental health and your emotional and physical health are seriously, this is the most important relationship you're ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. And it might sound selfish, but if you're not happy, nobody else is going to be happy. And then we end on empowerment, because once you have all those things in place, you are empowering yourself to feel better and do better and achieve things and jump out of your box and get out of your comfort zone, right? And then you're helping your friends do the same, and your children and your peers, and it's like a trickle down domino effect almost. So that's what my program is about. And my new book is called Why Am I Yelling? Because relationships. And I talk about all those elements in that as well, because it's important to have them in every relationship you have, not just the one with yourself, but the one with your children and your friends and your coworkers, and to look at your past relationships and learn from those and take those elements and say, how can I change the relationships that I've had in the past and not make those mistakes, or acknowledge those experiences, because that's important too, to move forward in the relationships that I want for my future.
You talked about relationship with yourself and the conversation of this isn't being selfish. This is having self-love. Yes. Let's define for people who are listening or viewing us the distinct difference between being selfish and loving yourself and nurturing yourself and giving to yourself in a way that it brings you up and puts you in a place where you can be the source for everyone else. And there's a distinct difference between the two.
Sure is, yeah. I think I'm going to use women as an example because I am one and I'm a mother. So as a woman and a mother, I think we tend to feel guilty about taking time for ourselves to nurture ourselves and better ourselves and that kind of stuff. And we find ourselves feeling like it's a selfish act. For me, self-love is about spending time, sometimes it's spending alone time with myself and having that cup of coffee in the morning before my kids get up and organizing my day in my head, or going to the gym, or having a nice dinner with my girlfriends or my husband, or even with my children. I mean, I think that's however you define it for yourself is the way that you should utilize it. There's not really a bad way to do it. But when you're talking about selfishness, like the people that I think about in my life who are or have been selfish, they are really only concerned with themselves and not the outcome that they're projecting to the world. So when I'm doing self-care, I'm taking care of myself, but I'm also thinking about, well, if my mental health and my physical health and my emotional health are all in check, then I'm doing a better job being a mother and a wife and a friend and all the things that I am. So I think the difference is self-care. When you're doing it the right way and you're taking care of yourself, you're still thinking about the way you're going to put that out to the world. And when you're a selfish person, you're not thinking about that at all. You're really just thinking about yourself, and that's the end game.
What I also like to add is what you also said is that if it's an inclusive concept, if it's a me and you, and I know that I need to take care of myself to be in my optimum in order to be able to take care of you, it is self-love in a sense, whether you're there for me to take care of you or not. But if it's I'm only caring about me and I don't care about you, then it's selfish. Or if I only care about you and lose myself in the middle, then it's the selflessness of, it's also the codependent kind of a being, and it'll get us ill. We'll never be satisfied because we're always running on empty. So the self-love, it's almost like sources all of it anyway. So if there's an allowance, if I think that I deserve and I can allow for myself to care for myself in a loving way. Another conversation that shows up for me is that self-love is also not only care in a way that like we'll give ourselves time and, massages or taking care, pampering ourselves. but also in the way that we talk to ourselves. I mean, the way that we think and the way that we treat ourselves. Like, are we going to be like nasty and really negatively judgmental and bashing ourselves because we made a mistake, or we think we should be perfect and not? And I know that in your transformational work, you're also in the area that you work with people with themselves. You coach them in that area. Say a little bit about that.
I'm a big believer in mindset practice. I think it can change your life. I do it. I've seen the effects of it. I've seen the positive effects of it. I see the negative effects of it when you have somebody who is pessimistic and negative all the time, and you are trying to be a positive person. It's hard, but when you put into practice, utilizing. I'm a big fan of meditation. I spend probably 20 to 30 minutes a day just doing some type of positive meditation. And I do guided meditations because I'm not good enough at it yet to just sit on my own and focus that way. But there's so many available options out there to really just plug in and listen to somebody help you change your mindset and your outlook on your day, whether you are feeling stressed or you need some abundance or you need some, calm and clarity. There's really a lot available to you. So I highly, highly recommend meditative work. Positive affirmations for me are also a big deal. I do them with my children all the time. Encouragement, really just teaching them that life is about experience and it's not always going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and that we have to take, our failures and turn them into learning lessons. And so when you have that kind of mindset, you can figure out, yes, you are absolutely allowed to have a bad day, but what did we learn from our bad day and how can we change that going forward? And there's got to be some good that came out of your bad, right? And I'm the ultimate silver lining in the cloud finder. So I'll find that. And, I think that when you have those tools and you can put them in place in your life, you can change your mindset, and it works. And I've done it with my clients, and I do it with my kids, and I've done it with myself. And to see that transformation and to watch that shift happen, it really is, it's almost magical, really. I love it.
You're listening to Inner Voice Show, and this is Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I'm talking to Krista Rizzo. She's a certified transformational life coach and an author. Her new book is coming out in September. Krista, your book is going to be about relationship. Why am I yelling? It's because relationship.
Yeah.
So what is it that you can yell about in a relationship?
So this book was inspired by my now 12-year-old, who was a 10-year-old at the time. I was watching him go through a transformation. He was entering his tween years, and, that's when the girls and the boys start to notice each other and all the things start to happen. And it was the summertime, and I said to myself, I have to write these stories down so I don't forget them. And someone said to me, you should write, I know you want to write a book, so you should, if it's going to be a relationship book, you should start here. And I was like, that's a great idea. So then I thought about it, and I was like, there are so many books out there that specify a type of relationship. So you can find the book out there that talks about marriage and parenting and friendships and career change and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't found a book that's all encompassing of every relationship. So this book does just that. I start with the relationship you have with yourself. And that's a good chunk of the book. We talk about spiritual, mind love, body love, taking care of yourself. And then I move into relationships with others. And I talk about, adolescent relationships, because I've got a child, and I think about when I was an adolescent and the feelings that I had and how those relationships manifested for me and how I learned about them. You said earlier, we learn about our relationships from our parents, right? We watch them have their relationships, or the people that raised us, or the community that our parents have built around us as children. And we emulate them until we're old enough to realize that we have a mind of our own and we can make our own decisions, and we can change the relationships that we have based on the way we feel about them. So I talk about how my relationships developed as a child and how I changed those. My parenting style is different from my parents' parenting style. My friendship style is different from the friendship style my parents had, right? And how my kids are doing it, and how I'm not really meddling in their life, but I'm watching closely how that happens and being able to guide them through that. So it's kind of threefold, and it really does touch on just about every relationship that you'll have in your life. So I don't think there's another book like it out there. And I think that it's not really a how-to, but it's really more of a life experience type of book where there's advice and there are life experience stories in there that are mine, and they belong, and there's some of my friends and my kids, and that I think a lot of people will be able to resonate with. Like, I'm taking you back to, one of my girlfriends is reading it right now, and she's like, oh my gosh, you just took me back to being a 12-year-old girl. It's the craziest thing on the planet. I'm like, right, because I feel like we have to talk about that. We have to talk about why all of the relationships are important, not just one or two.
So when you look at yourself and your own relationships, which one of your relationships was the most important, where you grew from and has made you who you are?
I think that's a tie, and I think it's a tie between the relationship I have with my husband and the relationship I have with my children. And I think it's because, I was a serial monogamist. I met my husband when I was in my early 20s, but I had a few boyfriends prior to him. And he was really the first man that I had ever been with who encouraged me to be me for me. And it wasn't about, the outer person, right? It wasn't about the aesthetic. It was really about the person I am. And, he encouraged me to, use my brain and have intelligent conversation. And really, he kind of like broke me out of a shell of like it's hard to explain. Like, it was like I was going along and being one person I thought I was supposed to be. And then after I met him, it was like, wait a minute, there's a whole other person in here that needs to come out. And I hadn't found her yet. Right. So, and that was 21 years ago. We've been together 21 years. So he has been a huge motivator for me. He is my greatest support person. And he has never said to me, there's nothing you can't do. When I wanted to leave my job 4 years ago, he was the first person who said, you should do this. And when I wanted to start my own business, he was like, you have to do this. There's never been a time when he said, this is a terrible idea, you should never do this. So definitely him. And then I think becoming a mother changes you, just completely. And you don't realize it until you actually, my mother always said this, you will never know. You can think you know, but until you have a child of your own, you're never going to know. And that is 100% true. And I don't care how you become a parent, whether it's through adoption or fostering or having your own child of your own, it is a miracle unto itself. And that relationship, the one that I have with my kids, has completely changed me. It's changed the way I look at the world. I look at the world through their eyes, and I see things that I probably never saw as a child. And I think I have learned to appreciate things. And really, I've learned how to be more present, absolutely, than ever before.
I think that you're put a finger on something very important. Before we are in a right intimate relationship or a marriage, there's a lot of receptivity, like we receive from our families and parents and the world. And I think having a great intimate relationship is one of the first relationships which is an even give and take kind of, friendships are, but I think in a partnership level, where in all aspects of your life in a marriage, you're actually doing this give and take, that it's in all realms, whether it's a financial or social or spiritual or everything, you become partner, which is not what you do with your friends. Right. And so it makes us grow. It forces us to grow, and it forces all of the different parts of you to come out, whether they come out nicely or not very nicely, in order for them to grow, but they will show up. And it will give you the opportunity to grow. And then, as you said, having the children will be the next level of responsibility and accountability, of sometimes giving without at all attempting to receive at that moment, because that's what our role is going to be. Yep. Plus, I think kids are there to kind of mirror us in all levels of being out of integrity. Like they'll be in your face because
Oh, yeah.
you're trying to teach them everything. So they will be in your face saying, "Well, you didn't do that, and how come you do that?" So we have to come up with all of those answers and watch ourselves. That is not just what I say, but every act that I do, it's going to show up. And if my words are different than my actions, some little one in front of me is going to show me that those two are very, very different. So which one did you want me to do? Your words or your actions? So it's truly, truly the utmost level of growth as we are faced with that. So the transformation happens just by being in this relationships and being open to the growth.
I totally agree. Yes. I mean, I have never changed more than when I had a relationship with my husband and with my children. Like I feel like I came into my own with the crazy, like as crazy as that sounds, or maybe it doesn't sound so crazy, but I feel like when you reach a certain point in your life, and I'm in my mid 40s. So at this point, it's like, I don't have to apologize for who I am. I can appreciate who I am. And this person that is sitting here has a lot to offer other people. And so I don't know that I would have been able to do that without the relationships that I have with my partner and my children.
So when you face some sort of downfall or something that just doesn't show up in the way that you intended it, or that you thought you could handle it, what do you do in order to create that resiliency and touch upon your strengths to move forward?
I had a situation last year where I was faced with an unexpected challenge, and it was a business decision. And the person that I had, decided to partner with, collaborate with on this project, turned out to be not very forthcoming and very honest. And so at the end of that experience, I was extremely deflated because I had a lot of energy and time, and there was a financial investment, but it wasn't life-shattering. But just the whole thing like really left me unsettled for a little while. And I came home, I was away for it. I had to be away, and I came home and I said to my husband, I was like, here's the thing. I can either let this debilitate me for a long time, or I can choose to find the silver lining in the cloud. And it took me a little while to find it. I'm not going to say, oh, everything was great from day one, but I allowed myself to validate those feelings because I think that's important. And I allowed myself to have those feelings because brushing it under the rug isn't doing anybody a service. Right. So validating them and acknowledging them and really having like an understanding of why this happened and the red flags that I may have missed because I was, really excited about it or whatever. And there were some. So I think for me, it's about validation and it's about acknowledgement and it's about accepting that, yeah, I made a bad decision and this is what happened from it, but here's what I learned. And I'm a big about, learning experience and life lessons. And so this is something I will never do again. But if I move into a collaboration or a partnership with somebody, it'll be more well thought out and better planned and all of those things. So I learned a lot from it and I have gratitude for that. But there's also, it took me a little while to get the bad taste in my mouth. So, mindset practice and I did a lot of inner work on myself. I spent a lot of time taking long walks.
Whoops, I think that we lost her. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, I hope that we find her again. We had a really good discussion, and I was getting from her the concept that I think we got her again.
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, good.
I'm like, oh, you froze.
I know. So what I was hearing also from you, Krista, is that you weren't really taking a lot of time where sitting in the space of bashing yourself or being upset with yourself. It's like the accountability and the responsibility of who am I? And what did I do? And this is my responsibility. These are the actions I did. And this is what happens after you do what you do. This is what happens. And this is a consequence or the outcome that I got. And then based on this outcome. And the basic concept of my life is I learned from this. I got what it is. And of course, there's going to be residual emotions. That's normal. It has to be emotions. We're sad, we have grief, angry, shame, and all of those that might come in. And then you looked at what you learned and honored your emotions, but then moved on to see how can you put through what you've learned into new resources and kind of tag along and move on.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's been a joy speaking with you, Krista. Last words for people who are listening and watching us. Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Take the time to really fall in love with yourself. Everybody out there has a special power and is a special person and has a story to tell. And I think that the world, especially right now, needs your good stories, and we need your love, and we need your compassion and your kind energy. And so for me, I think right now it's about focusing on your self-care and your health and doing everything you can to be the best person you can be so you can pass it on and pay it forward to all the people in your life.
Absolutely. You just said that. I reminded myself of something. I've been working on, I just want to acknowledge anger. There's a lot of anger around the world. And if I can just calm myself and don't get all triggered, I would give the world a gift. So to, piggyback on what you said, can the world just work on themselves to calm themselves out?
Yes.
And then if we all work on ourselves and
stop yelling.
Stop yelling. But then, why am I yelling? Yeah, please, could you stop yelling?
Yes.
So it was a joy to have you on our show. We'd love to have you back when your book is out. Everyone who's listening or watching us, go to whyamiyelling.com and go read about the new, everything that Krista does. And hopefully you're out there to get her book. It was great being with you. Thank you,
so lovely.
Krista.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone, call me, 951-922-3532. We'll be right back and love to talk to you. So call me.
Put your hand on your heart and put your hand on your heart.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the internet stream.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Then you need the law offices of REF Datacar for your free case evaluation. Don't let the medical bills pile up, and don't let the insurance companies try to settle your claim for a few $100s. Call 714-464-3246. The law offices of REF Datacar serves all of California. If they don't win, you don't pay. So call now, 714-464-3246. This is a paid-for attorney advertisement by the law offices of REF Datacar of Orange, California.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and we are talking to Layla. Hello, Layla.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. So I have a couple of questions for you.
Can you hear me well? I'm losing you a bit with the sound.
I can. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better. So tell me a little about you and how come you're calling? What's your question?
So a little about me. I'm 35 years old, just recently single, and I actually have a question in regards to whether or not I potentially, not necessarily made the right decision, but what I may have potentially done differently in my relationship and what I could do differently moving forward, and whether it's in this relationship or in the next one. So recently, my boyfriend and I broke up after about 2 years doing long-distance relationship dating and moving in together. The moment we moved in together, it's like I had no clue who this human being was. And all the stuff that I fell in love with were exactly the things that were driving me absolutely crazy throughout the couple of months. And I say couple of months, a very short amount of time I was able to handle it living together. So my I guess, bigger question for you is, how does one necessarily not turn a blind eye to the red flags that are clearly in front of one's face?
First of all, I think that when you have long-distance relationships, we only, portray the best of us. And even if we go and visit each other, I think the visiting part, we're only spending a weekend or maybe a week with each other. So we postpone everything else in life, and we handle each other as a guest. And that's why only a certain part of us kind of shows up. And that's why when suddenly after we go and live together, the partnership that is there and the all-day negotiations that we have to do with each other, it makes it much more harder if the two personalities are not a match or that they don't know how to negotiate. So I think there's two pieces. Are we so far apart that we can't really negotiate? Because if we do, the way that we will negotiate, we have to lose ourselves in order to even be somewhere in the middle? Or is it that we just don't know how to, and we have maybe possibly a different idea about what relationships are, and then suddenly we face with this. What do you think it was? Was it that you were so far apart that even though if you would negotiate, you just wouldn't be able to be happy?
It's really interesting that you asked that question, because I personally feel that I was willing to do a lot of the negotiating, and it got to the point that since he wasn't willing to, I got to a point that I wasn't willing to either. So it's like we were doing things to kind of spite each other towards the end, and it just got so spiteful that at one point or another, it just someone had to throw in the towel at that point.
Mm-hmm. So when your question is how can I not see or have not seen the red flags, is when someone is that rigid that they're not willing to negotiate, assumably it will show in many, many, many different realms before that. So, did you see this part of him that just wasn't budging before, and then maybe you didn't give it too much thought, and you said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll
I mean,
fix it, and we'll fix it."
that's a great question, and I guess the only part that I could say yes to honestly, without any limitations to that, is when it came down to his turn to come to visit me, and because we literally lived across the country. I'm in Los Angeles. He was in Washington, D.C. And the biggest problem was I was always going to him versus him making the effort to come out to me. So I personally think that that might have been my absolute biggest red flag. But the way I was making up for it, because this is in my head how I was making an excuse for it, is, well, we're having such a great time there, so I guess it's not that bad. But then, when we finally did move in together, that's where it just became, well, wait a second, there is no compromise in this relationship.
There's also this idea that when you move into somebody's space where everything about their life is already set, it's kind of hard for them to change everything. So, for example, if we live at the same city, people have their own life, they have their own space, they have their own friends, they have their own community. And, slowly but surely, they get involved with each other and with each other's community. And they see each in different ways of relatedness. When you are far apart from each other, it's hard to see that, because when you go to someone's environment, you go into their environment knowing that you're on a trip. There's no way of being in your own environment. You're just in theirs. So you kind of flow with whatever is going on. When you go to somebody's house, you are their guest. So you don't demand anything because that's their house. So you kind of just flow with whatever rules and regulations that it is. And then when you do that for 2 years, you also giving the other person the kind of the message that, oh, everything is okay. See, I come to your environment. I mingle with your friends. I'm in your apartment. I, take this much space of the closet, and then I go. And, it's your rules. It's everything's yours. It's your, furniture. Everything is yours. I just kind of softly come in, create pleasure for both of us, and softly go back to my space. So now that I actually come in with my suitcases, and now it's my space, and I'm trying to find my own rules and my own friends and my own space, and where do I put my toothbrush, and where do I put my clothes, and oh, what about me wanting my furniture this color? Now you're coming after 2 years and changing all the rules you've already kind of flew in for 2 years. So there's
I never thought of it that way. You're absolutely right. The entire time I was actually chopping it up to the fact that the red flags were there and I didn't see it. I never looked at it from another sense that, like, you're right. Whenever I was out there, it's more of a trip, a vacation, 48-hour, event where you are in somebody else's area and you're following by their rules, for lack of better words. But you're absolutely right. And I have one last question in regards to the same thing. We also had a relatively, in my opinion, big age difference where I'm 6 years older. I don't think 6 years is, the older you get, the less relevant it becomes. But I also think that, 35 and 29 is a bigger, well, in my opinion. Do you have an opinion on that?
I think age is a matter of experience, plus that it's a matter of phase of life issues. So I do agree. 6 years between 40 and 46 might not be that bad, or 50 and 56 might not be that bad. But the younger you are, because you're in a growth spurt of not only age-wise and physical-wise, but also experience-wise and phase of life issues, I think that people are different. Like a female of age 35 is much more into settling down and just biological, hormonal they're much more in the phase of my system is getting ready to have a family, to settle down, to have children,
Right.
to do all of that. A 29-year-old man might not still be there, might be still in looking at their careers and how to move forward and what to do and how to define who they are as an identity. So there might be sometimes that one is more mature than the other on a even not even considering numbers, just maturity level. So a 29-year-old might be more mature than a 35-year-old at one point. So it really depends. So I would also look at the level of maturity that you have in your life, depending on your lifestyle, your background, your family, all the experiences you had to go through versus him. Was he a mature 29-year-old that he could kind of, be closer to your age or not? And if he wasn't, then I would assume that there would be a lot of issues and differences in the phase of life concept. Does that make sense?
100%. And I know you hit on something that kind of hit a chord with me is like family and experiences. And I think just that fact alone, we were on very, very two different pages, even from the way that we were raised. He's an only child, only grandchild, versus I'm in a little bit of a bigger family than that. So it completely makes sense.
And it could be that, he was receiving a lot of attention. He could get away with a lot of the things that he was doing because he was the only child and the only grandchild. That maybe you're a nurturing person, so you went along in his space and you gave to his space and you completely adored his space. So he got more of, oh, mommy, grandmommy, oh, I'm now a mate who everybody loves me and adores me. And then suddenly, you move in and then you're like, what about me now? I also need this, this, this. And he's like, well, that wasn't part of our agreement. You were just supposed to adore me. What's up with all the rest of this stuff?
Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You also talked about, how do you foresee this in the future? Which I think that knowing what you really want from a relationship and requesting it and seeing how it lands. If the person can see what you want and hear you and have the ability to offer it to you, great. If they don't see or hear you or don't have the ability, then maybe you can teach them. If they're teachable and they want to be taught and they want to do this for you, awesome. If not, then you can make a decision whether they don't want to, they're not capable of, they're not ready, or all of it. So being clear in what you want, it makes it much easier for you to assess, to see if what you want is out there with this person or not. And they're clear because now they don't have to guess because you verbalize what it is you want. And then, you can negotiate based on that, but they have to have an understanding of that. If you're choosing to do long distance just because, you might find suitable people in a long distance space, then I think that going more and insisting for them to come and see you, taking longer time to be together before you make these jumps would probably be better for you. Thank you so much, Layla, for calling.
You're welcome. Thank you again.
Yes, absolutely. And call again.
I will. Bye.
Bye-bye. And for all of you who've been listening, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. Remember that today we talked about how to take care of yourself, know who you are, love yourself, care about yourself, have these thoughts that are just loving for you and everybody else. Handle and manage your anger constantly. Calm yourself down, even if you get angry or the world attempts to make you angry or you get tempted to be angry at the world for any reason. Maybe if we can all calm down and feel loving for ourselves and others, that this whole anger piece will come down. Till next week, bye-bye.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
News, talk, and sports for the Inland Empire. AM 1490 KMET. Banning, Beaumont,
From
Redlands.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. Already the battle lines are being drawn over President Trump's yet unnamed Supreme Court nominee.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says it's a critical pick for American women.
The fate of the affordable health care and a woman's freedom to make the most sensitive medical decisions about her body.
Republican Mitch McConnell says some Democrats won't accept anyone Mr. Trump picks.
It doesn't matter who.